Hello and welcome to another video from Fantasy Football Scout. This week we are continuing with our series of team reveals. Yes, the teams will change by the time game week 1 comes around, but this gives a useful insight into some of the key players and strategies to consider. My name's Joe and today I'm joined by Gianni to discuss his early game week 1 draft for the 2020-21 campaign. Gianni, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really well, mate. It's been a lovely summer of football. I thought within the first 10 seconds of this video, I would have to mention it was a great Euros. I've just seen in the comments, if Gianni mentions the Euros, so straight away it has to come out. But no, I'm really well. I'm looking forward to the FPL season ahead now. A couple of weeks ago, I was very much in kind of international football headspace. But now, you know, everything points towards the Premier League and we've only got a couple of weeks to go. So yeah, very excited.
Okay, this is very exciting. So just for those who are perhaps not UK based at the moment, it's blooming hot here. I've been having some computer overheating issues. I have got a fan on, a handheld fan behind my computer, along with the computer fan, and it's by the window, so I'm hopeful they'll be okay. But if there's any issues, we'll stop and we'll get this recorded and we'll get this out as soon as we can this afternoon. In the meantime, let's have a look at your team. This is why everyone's here. So let's have a look at your team. So we build this as double Liverpool defence, or you could build it as triple Liverpool. Either way, it's enticing with those 2 or 3 players, but sacrifices have to be made. So I usually go through the team and then we'll go through each player, but I'll just let you do it. So what we'll do is we'll go from the back, and before we get to the defence, we'll have a look at your goalkeeper. So who have you got in goal and why?
Yeah, so I've gone for Meslier. I mean, I wanted a set and forget. I don't want, in years gone by, I have gone with 2 4.5s. I just want fewer decisions to make each week, and having one goalkeeper allows me just to go, okay, I can park the idea, and yes, I have to ride out some trickier fixtures for that goalkeeper, but I'll be set. And we all had Martinez last year and it worked for us, right? So I'm going for a similar approach this year. Now, Sanchez and Backman are the 2 obvious sort of 4.5 options. I just think Meslier, if you can go into that 5 million category, a Pickford or a Meslier, you get quite a bit greater value for money, I believe, purely off clean sheet potential, but also save points. So, for example, I did put Sanchez in there as a default because I'd seen everyone talking about him and I'd gone, yeah, Brighton, I want to cover them. And I compared Sanchez to the Brighton defenders and just went, I definitely want Brighton defenders, not goalkeeper, higher ceiling. Sanchez won't get the save points that Meslier will get, for example. And looking at last season, Meslier was only slightly behind. There was something like 5 fewer saves than Martinez. Now, bearing in mind that Martinez made saves for fun, I thought, yeah, I'll have a bit of that. And Meslier, I think, had 11 clean sheets. So I think Leeds will improve again this season. They second half of the season, they were really tight at the back because they dominate the ball, they dominate possession. They don't concede many, but they do concede chances, often from distance, which may mean good save points. So I'm very happy with Meslier. I've not seen him in many drafts, and he is one of the very few in my team that I think I'm pretty locked on.
Okay.
You know, this time of the season, I'm expecting big changes in a couple of weeks. Yeah. I'm not expecting a change there. Okay,
so my job here is sort of being devil's advocate and say, but what if you're wrong? And that's the question I'm asking. So with Meslier, 5.0, so 2 things I'm thinking there. Is a set and forget goalkeeper. What if he has to isolate due to COVID?
Yeah.
What are you going to do then? You're going to have to make a goalkeeper transfer. Would you consider going for Leeds deputy, even if it costs a bit more, or would you consider 2 cheaper rotating goalkeepers, or one just in case, one first team? What are you thinking there?
I'm really hoping that the deputy Leeds keeper will come in at 4 million. We don't currently have a deputy Leeds goalkeeper.
Okay.
So there's a chance they'll probably come in at 4.5. But if they come in at 4, that makes it quite nice.
Easy.
I go for both of them. Saying that, because I've got Rafinha, it does mean if Bamford's on a streak or Dallas or Ayling, I've then have my 3 Leeds players locked, but I can worry about that if it comes. Ideally, I would love 2 from the same team.
Okay, and the other thing is there was some rumours floating around yesterday, strong rumours from Manchester United sources that Dean Henderson has got the number 1 jersey, that would indicate that De Gea is either off or is going to be safe for Europe and some of the cup competitions.
Yeah.
which is no mean feat because they could get quite far in that. So he could do well there. So Henderson number one. Would you consider going for Henderson instead of Meslier if you're going for that sort of set and forget goalkeeper?
To be honest, I know I said I'm pretty locked on Meslier, but actually having heard the news yesterday about Henderson, that did perhaps it made me think, oh, okay, yeah, maybe. But I also think Luke Shaw could come into my thinking, and I would prefer Shaw over Henderson, and probably wouldn't want both. So yeah, I still think I'd veer slightly towards the Leeds man. Just because of the bonus and the save points. Of course, you expect Henderson to maybe tip him on clean sheets, but for save points and bonus, that's really where I'm thinking at with goalkeepers. It's just those extra 3 points, and we had it with Martinez, and I think we could have it with this guy.
Okay, so that's my devil's advocate over with on the goalkeeper, really. But let's look at this defence then. So currently in my draft, I've got three reliable defenders, a Liverpool guy, a bit of Kufau maybe, Luke Dean, maybe Luke Shaw. These kind of three roles there, and then I'm looking at some cheaper ones there. So, but you've gone for a different strategy. You've got double Liverpool defence, so Robertson and Alexander-Arnold. Then you got Fofana, Lamptey, and Veltman as your cheap backups there. So, yeah, I mean I've tagged this video double Liverpool defence. Sell me double Liverpool defence.
I mean, last season, they had issues. We all know they had issues, but it's very clear and obvious why, right? You lose Van Dijk, you lose Gomez, at times Matip. They were playing kids at centre-back. Firmino played a lot of time at centre-back. If we take years gone by before that, the 2 seasons before that, they were so good at the back. When they have that consistent back four, the clean sheets are just absolutely nailed, and then you get the attacking returns you get from your fullbacks Robbo and Trent. So look, last season I was actually really excited by the idea of jumping on Robertson early, even with their injuries. The only reason I didn't go there was because clean sheets weren't guaranteed last season. But if we were looking at attacking play, he was taking set pieces off Trent for the first time ever at the start of last season. He was more advanced than Trent for the first half of last season. Now that did change, but Liverpool clocked on, and at the start of last season it was a strategy of Klopp's to go, we need to take less of the burden off Trent because teams are targeting us because they know it's all about Trent. So he gave Robbo a little bit more license, and there's now more balance there. And I think this season we will see more balance. And I think attacking numbers will be quite similar. Set piece numbers will be quite similar. Combine that with the clean sheets, and we could be looking at 200 points plus, which we know Robbo can do. He didn't do it last year, but the season before that and the season before that, I think on both those occasions he did. So at 7 million, I kind of had a 4.5 defender in that slot, or maybe a 4.0 defender in that slot. And I was looking at my forwards and midfielders and went, at 7 million, are there any midfielders or forwards in this game I would prefer to Robertson? And the simple answer was no. So I just went, okay, let's mix it up and put him in. So, looking at your 7.0 forwards, I'm not sold on many of them. Tony, who I've got, you've got to spend 7.58 to get your likes of your Antonios or your DCLs. So I just looking at comparison numbers there when Robbo just makes it pretty clear and obvious.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna play devil's advocate for this one. Although I haven't got double Liverpool defence at the moment, it's something I am considering, and for one of the reasons you said. But I've got some other stats here to back up that decision here. So I think the first one really is fixtures. So looking here, we can see why it's worthwhile with Liverpool. So Van Dijk's back, Gomez back, the defence looking good. Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, I'll come to them in a second specifically. But look at those fixtures then. Norwich, Burnley, then they got Chelsea, so it's a tough match there. Then they got Leeds, Crystal Palace, Brentford, City, and then Watford. So out of that, there's a hell of a lot of potential for clean sheets there. So at bare minimum, you're looking at 12 points a match for those two on those matches where you can get clean sheets. Plus, those assist potential is absolutely huge. And we know about bonus as well. So I sort of run the gauntlet towards the end of last season without Alexander-Arnold, and it was frightening. And the only reason I did okay was because I had Robertson. And Robertson beat him 1 week, I remember. And then most of the weeks he was lagging behind on bonus. And having both of them though, and I sort of wish I'd wildcarded into both of them because they were both fantastic. So yeah, look at the fixtures there, and then look at the attacking defenders. So I've got a table here of attacking defenders from last season. Well, guess who started? It's Alexander-Arnold and Robertson.
Yeah.
So I've filtered this by expected goal involvement for all of last season, and they're right up there. They're really, really performing fantastically well there. Plus, they've got the clean sheet potential. Look at all those goal attempts, all those chances created. Alexander-Arnold created 77 chances. You've got to go down to 66 chances for Robertson, and then out of those expected goal involvement, Cancelo at City, 44 chances created last season. Shaw at 72 is an option, but he was playing the Euros with broken ribs, so we're not sure there, so to speak. But Alexander-Arnold, they look nailed on, and we know they're fit. We know they're central to Liverpool's play. I can't argue with that.
Yeah, they've both had a pre-season as well, because Scotland obviously left the Euros early. Trent obviously had his injury, but it's reported back early. We hope Van Dijk will be fit for the start of the season, and if he is, you think at those set pieces, and Robertson, that graphic, 119 corners. We've never had that with Robbo before. You put Van Dijk on the end of those corners, and you get more assists. So yeah, it makes for good reading, that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Alexander-Arnold, possibly Luke Shaw. If fit, if ready, if his ribs are all there, I'll go for him. But I can't argue with that. So let's go back to your team again. So this is the sacrifice that you've got. And I don't know if it's that big a sacrifice, really. Because you've got Fofana, who is value 6 points, clean sheets for Leicester, nailed on. And part of the reason he's been downgraded, he was in and out of the side a bit towards the end. But that was because he was fasting as well. So, that was, and he was still playing on. It's just because they were just being extra watchful because of his age. And Lamptey and Veltman. Why have you got Lamptey and Veltman? Why not say Luke Ayling or Ben White, who's off to Arsenal?
Yeah. Do you know what? When we look at fixtures, yes, the Liverpool fixtures shine through, and Wolves are up there, but Brighton are too. And I just think that Brighton run at the start of the season, we all know they underperformed last season. I know most teams will have a Lamptey and a Sanchez. I think double Brighton defence is a good idea. I see why they're doing that, and I'm still doing that, just with 2 defenders. And I think we forget that Veltman, before he got injured with about a month to go of the season, he was playing wing back. So I need to see what formation that it's very likely Potter's going to play with wing backs again in a back 3/5. I need to see where Veltman's playing, because in years gone by we've seen Veltman as a left set, or even at times right-sided centre back. But for the first time ever for me, I saw him with the second half of last season playing at wing back, and he was really bombing on. So I wonder if we could see Veltman one side, Lamptey the other, or even if it's Veltman in a 3 at 4.5, he's still, I think, good value for clean sheets. So he probably will be on my bench mostly. Like, I'm probably always going to play Lamptey over him when fit. And at times we could see even a back 3, but I like the idea of double Brighton. I mean, Ben White is good value even at Arsenal, but I think he's arguably better value at Brighton. And then Ayling I like, but I've got Meslier, so I'm fairly happy with that spread.
I saw a rumour today that Nat Phillips is in the running to be Ben White's replacement at Brighton. So for 4.5 defender fans, he's another one to put in the mix. But I think it just shows how much breadth there is and choice. Another question I ask is, what if you're wrong? Is how do you run away from a decision? And with your 4.5s, this got plenty of scope to run away, because there's so much choice there, especially with Arsenal, because they've got million centre backs and defenders. It's worth pointing out that I think Solly March, if fit, will be playing on the other side. Lamptey, if fit, will be there. But yeah, Veltman, I say if fit, both of them have bad injury records, so Veltman will get a look in somewhere along there, I would imagine. Moving on to midfield. Now I'm not going to dwell on Rafinha too much, because I've seen him in a lot. It's obvious why he's there. He was so electric last season for Leeds. Leeds are so attacking against good and bad opposition. And he's 6.5, which is about $1 million less than I thought he would be, to be honest. Yeah. So, Salah and Fernandes, I'm not going to dwell on them too much. I'll put up figures, and I'll put up the table again. I'll put it up a couple of times already, but there we go. Salah, Fernandes, expected goal involvement. They are top of all players from last season. So it's obvious why you've got them. Let's move on to the others though. So there's a big shiny Mahrez there. Why Mahrez?
Do you know what? I've never been a Mahrez fan at City. Of course, we all owned that. We loved that Mahrez Vardy double up in their Leicester title winning season. But I've not been massive on Mahrez at City. But one thing I am big on, Joe, is Man City attack. And
Yeah.
and I 100% will be covering Man City attack with my final team come 13th of August on deadline day. Now, I want that to be Mahrez at the moment because he'll have had a good pre-season, unlike many of the other options. And I think he's very likely to start the first handful of games, and that's because there's no recognised number 9 yet. And remember, the transfer window is open till the end of the month, so City could buy that number 9 2-3 weeks after the season started. Foden and Sterling both coming back very late for pre-season. I don't think they'll be starting game week 1, and even if they are, how many minutes will they get? Likewise, Torres for Spain was at the semis of the Euros. So Mahrez for me is one that I can look at and go, I'd be pretty disappointed or shocked if he didn't start. Of course, it's Man City, so who knows? But I just want to cover him. I don't think I need to worry about Man City fixtures ever because it's Man City. They will score goals on their day against anyone. And I just like him. He could be on pens at 9 million. He's good enough value. And he's in that bracket where if things aren't going well, and I want to jump ship to a Grealish or a Havertz, or even a Foden, or a Torres, it's a very easy move. So I quite like covering that price point in midfield because many go for those Brunos, KDBs and Salahs, and then again your Rafinha 6.5 bracket. But we can often forget about that 8 to 10 million bracket, and I've got Mahrez covered there.
Yeah, I know. I like that. You've actually sold me on that. Not necessarily Mahrez, but it's that price point. And I haven't got that price point in my team at the moment in midfield, and I'm a bit nervous about it because looking at those fixtures again. So for example, if I wanted to get Son, you've got to free up 1 million somewhere. That's doable. I've got to free up about 3.5 million somewhere, which is not as doable. And I look at those fixtures there for Spurs. So let's assume Harry Kane is late back, not there, whatever. Son's going to be the main man. He's really good in terms of his conversion level. He scores from small chances, big chances. He's got it all, really. So they start with City, bad fixture, and then they got Wolves, and then they got Watford and Crystal Palace. They've got this lovely run there. And if Son emerges in that Wolves game, and perhaps even scores against City, suddenly everyone's going to want him in. You can 2 moves. There you go, 1 million somewhere else. I can't. So that is something I think it's probably quite wise having Mahrez. The only downside I would say with Mahrez is there were rumours that once again rumours with transfers. Mahrez and Sterling are among the make weights on the transfer list for City should they go for Kane and Grealish. Once again, all rumours, all speculation. Will that affect him? Will he actually be there? Will he be success? I mean, we'll have him at Brighton, my team. I mean, basically, most clubs would want Mahrez.
I read that too, Joe, but then 12 hours later I read another story saying Man City would be looking at a new contract for him because he's had his best season under Pep. He's become an integral part of the team. So it's kind of one of those 6 of one, half dozen of the other stories, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, especially with City and United. Almost every player there gets linked away. Every player from everywhere else gets linked with them, and sometimes it gets shoehorned in a bit. So it's a situation to monitor. But as you said, treat with a pinch of salt. I do. I like the price point there, very much so. So I think that's really good. Let's move on. So this is probably where the sacrifice is. So you just mentioned you got Gibbs White there as a 4.5. Very good option. Brownhill mentioned he scored against the mighty Salford yesterday.
A brace for Brownhill. It's Brownhill or Gibbs White. I just want to see game time Gibbs White gets because I think he's a slightly more fun pick. But whoever it is, I don't expect them to get many minutes.
Yeah, and also I've seen Basuma in a lot of teams. As a Brighton fan, it's lovely to see Basuma there. I'm not sure he's going to be at Brighton. Hopefully will. He's a defensive midfielder. He takes amazing pot shots. He scores like one worldie a season, and I think people think that. His ownership's huge. Once people discover he's basically a defensive midfielder who's there to break up play and do some good passes in the odd worldie, his price may even go down. So I think Gibbs White Brownhill, those types of players are quite good. Up front, Watkins and Toney, I'm seeing them in a lot of teams in my current draft as well. Great first 3 fixtures for Villa. And Toney, once again, scored in pre-season, but he's the main man at Brentford. And if we think Brentford are going to be the Moneyball exponents of the league and do well, it's going to come through Toney somewhere. But yeah, you're Davis as well. So are your heart set on this sort of 4-4-2? Because Davis is your sacrifice, I would imagine.
Yeah, he is. And it does mean with my system as it is, if there's a Dominic Calvert-Lewin or an Antonio that I want to jump on, I can't easily do that if my other guys are ones I want to keep. So not having that third striker is the sacrifice by having Robertson. And that's what it will come down to. My game week 1 team will be, I think, similar to this. It's just, will it be Robertson or will it be a third forward?
Okay.
And if Robertson goes down to a 4 million defender, for example, I've got 3 million. So that allows me to have a 7.5 million forward. So, for example, Antonio comes in. I don't want Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I am set on that. I know his fixtures are amazing. You notice I don't have Luca Dean in my team either. I'm not a massive Benitez fan. I think Steve Bruce played better football at Newcastle than Benitez, despite some fan opinion. And I don't know if that's going to be a recipe for disaster there in Merseyside. So I really don't want to, and I am often cautious over new managers in jobs, and that's maybe why I've not gone for a Spurs player too, because Nuno, 4.5 Dyer could be a really good option, knowing Nuno's good at the back. But I just don't want to gamble too much on new managers. So for that reason, I'm not going Calvert-Lewin. But yeah, that third forward slot, I like Antonio. West Ham have got some useful fixtures. He had about a good pre-season. So it just comes down to, do I want, Antonio or Robertson, you could say. But I think at the moment, I'm going for someone that I could see myself staying with long term and looking at fewer transfers this season. I want to take fewer hits this season. Someone like Robbo can be someone you can switch off to. And whilst it limits your decisions, it doesn't force your hand each week with going, I've got FOMO because everyone's going Antonio and captaining him. Well, I can't reach him, so I just have to forget about it. So that might be where I go.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I prefer Kufau over Antonio if I was to choose between two. Between the two, because of the injury record. But yeah, Antonio currently in my 3-4-3. But yeah, I mean, you're convincing me. I mean, Robertson against Antonio, that's Robertson. It has to be.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
I think that's the decision. It's an interesting team, this, because I think a lot of people will look at this and go, well, that's my decision as well. Do I go Antonio? There's some other names in the mix as well. I think Wilson at Newcastle, does he tempt you at all?
Yeah, he does a little bit. Again, fitness. It'd be for the same reason I don't like always committing on saying Antonio. Wilson would be in the same category of, is it a transfer waiting to happen? I also really like the idea of Cavani for the start of the season when United are only playing 1 game a week. Now, you don't want Cavani when the cup competitions start because he's not going to play midweek and at the weekend. So you just fear he's not going to get enough minutes. But for the start of the season, for that first month or two, every Saturday, Sunday, he's going to be ready to go. So I think Cavani's a lovely option. Saying that, if you've got Bruno as well and Cavani, then that's a lot of money spent on United attack when there's lots of other good options out there. So I think Cavani would realistically, I'd only go Cavani if I ditched Bruno, which I'm just not considering doing. And would only do if things didn't work out early on in the season. So yeah, there's lots of options there for that third forward spot. But I just look at them and think often, is my max ceiling 6 to 8 points? With Robertson, I feel like it's 8 to 10 points, but probably more often, just a little bit more consistent with their clean sheet potential at the start of the season. So I think the more I talk about it, the more I want Robertson than that third 7.5 forward.
I know, the more you talk about it, the more I want Robertson rather than my 7.5 forward. I put the fixtures up here to underline Manchester United's potential. There. So they start with Leeds, Southampton, Wolves and Newcastle. So that's the first 4. They're really great fixtures. And so they look great for Cavani. So yeah, I can totally understand that. The other reason I've got these fixtures up here is because to look at Wolves and Villa. So you've got Watkins, Watford, Newcastle and Brentford to start. That's great plummy fixtures, and then it just turns awful with Chelsea, Everton, Manchester United, Tottenham. Meanwhile, Wolves have a pretty ropey, awful start. Leicester, Tottenham and Manchester United. Meanwhile, in game week 4, it gets really rosy again. Watford, Brentford, Southampton, Newcastle, and then Villa to a lesser extent. So, are you tempted? Do you have your eye on something like Watkins to Jimenez?
Yeah, Jimenez is one that I don't feel like has been spoken about enough for obvious reasons, and with the new manager. But if things click there, he could be really, really dangerous. And I look at the price points of the forwards and think, if I'm moving Watkins on and I'm getting on someone with form, whether that's an Antonio or a Jimenez, do I need 0.5 in the bank at the start of the season? And we would all love that.
Yeah.
And potential. And at the moment, the team we're looking at on screen, we don't have any money in the bank. So maybe Veltman has to go down to a 4.0 if we find someone that we think is going to play, whether that's the guy at Norwich or Manquillo, or there's someone else comes in. And then should I sell Watkins for a 7.6 or 7.7 forward? I've got that money in the bank, which could be key, because no doubt the forward I bring in is probably going to have had a price rise, because I'm going to be bringing someone in that's hit some form, right? So, and you're assuming Watkins hasn't blanked and hasn't dropped in value too. So ideally I want a little bit of cushion there. But Jimenez would be, with the Wolves fixtures, Jimenez, it's a really exciting pick. And certainly would be seen as a bit as a differential, both in the community and outside the community. I think Jimenez will be a lovely differential.
Yeah, definitely. I think he'll be popular as well because of what he's been through injury-wise. The sort of neutral will like to get him in. People still like to get players they like in as well. But yeah, looking overall at your team, I like it actually. I like the 4-4-2, and I think 4-4-2 might be the sort of sensible way to go, looking at the spread of players. And there is a flexibility here that perhaps those with a 3-4-3 might not better get with that Mahrez role. So what if they want to get Grealish? What if they want to get Son? Also Sancho. We don't know what price Jadon Sancho is going to be. Or is he? No, he hasn't been in the updated yet. So what do we think? So 9.5, for sake of argument, let's say he's 9.5. Yeah. That's going to be tricky for most to get. You, on the other hand, could get it. And I know what you said about the 0.5 in the bank every season. I'm going to put 4.5 in the bank every season. Do I help? Yeah. But just before we go, I'll just bring in some of the community. The computer's holding up in the heat. The fan is still going. So if you can hear that, everyone, thanks for bearing with the fan. So let's have a look at some of what people have been saying. Matthew Kent has said Antonio was the best for minutes per chance, he was saying. So I haven't verified that. So he was a fan of Antonio there. Chris Smith thinks that you should be looking at perhaps Mahrez to Buendia. I don't know if that's in addition to or instead of Watkins. And then upgrade a third striker. So that would free you up about 3 million, and that would enable you to get to be able to have Robertson and Antonio or Wilson or Jimenez. That's a good option actually. That's a nice thought there. Watkins is going to be the top 3 goal scorer if Grealish stays, says Matic. And what's I'm reading this straight here, so hopefully no one's swearing. So Shivam says, Gianni, any reason for going Messi over Martinez? Okay, so I didn't ask about Martinez. So why are you gone for Messi over Martinez?
Yeah, money. I mean, Martinez comes in at 5.0 and he'd probably be in all our teams. But at 5.5, it's just that little bit extra. I also feel like Villa were, certainly the second half of last season, they were conceding chances and at times goals for fun. And I don't think the clean sheets there are sustainable. Things have to change at Villa because for the last few months of the season, they looked really leaky. Martinez, look, he's had a brilliant summer as well. He's just won the Copa America as Argentina's #1. He is the best shot stopper for me in the Premier League. He will get save points for fun. But it's 5.5 and I just, as you can see, I just don't have the money. No. So I'm very happy in the 5.0 and no more.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people will look at this team and go, oh, that's different to what I was thinking. And may not necessarily like Mahrez, but they should look at the price and not the player on that and think what he offers, and he offers a route into other players there, definitely. Just before we go, Audi says no love for Kelechi Iheanacho. So Iheanacho, in your thoughts?
Yeah, we didn't speak about Iheanacho, and I was kind of listing the sort of forwards in that price band, and we should do. He deserves that level of respect because he was unbelievable last season at the end. I just wonder with Leicester, Vardy is a shoe-in, right? We know Vardy's going to play every minute of every game. With Barnes fit, they've also spent 30 million on another forward. We don't quite know the system Rodgers is going to go. If he goes two up top, could we see Barnes and Vardy? Will Iheanacho suffer some rotation? Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised, despite his incredible form. So for me, I just want to see how Leicester shape up because Barnes is fit and we know Rodgers loves him. Vardy isn't going to miss minutes yet. He's not over the hill by any stretch. So someone will have to drop at some point if we're assuming Maddison is still there too. So it's going to be an interesting one sort of watching Leicester in the first few weeks of the season and indeed pre-season. And also 28 million they've just spent on the new forward. He's going to get some minutes. So there's going to be competition for places.
Long-term replacement or definitely is, if they play one up top, you've got two good strikers when Vardy eventually does retire. But Vardy's quite superhuman. What was it? He's got some kind of oxygen bubble in his living room or something like that there, so he heals quickly. I remember captaining him even though he'd broken his arm and he still came on and scored a brace. I do not doubt Vardy's fitness at all. Speaking of which, no Vardy. So say Vardy does do what Vardy does again, how do you get him?
Yeah, and getting to a premium forward, a Vardy or a Kane, is almost impossible with this team. But I feel like I'm in the same boat as many. To do that, you've got to sell a Bruno or a Salah. So then you're going into two transfers and 4-point hit territory. But if needs must, then so be it. If Vardy is on one of those runs, or maybe Kane is, then you have to do what you have to do. But one reason why I like the Mahrez price point is I can get to Son fairly easily. And I need that because I know I can't get to Kane easily. Do you know what I mean? So in a similar way, I know I can't get to Vardy, but I can to Barnes, for example. So I guess it's just about covering those bands. So if you can't get to number one, you might be able to get to number two. And therefore, if I can't get to Vardy, someone like Barnes could be an option if Leicester are still flying.
Okay, it's time to go. Gianni, thanks so much for joining me. I think there's given a lot of people a lot to think about. We've got a team reveal every day this week. Got a couple more coming up for the rest of this week. And then Az is back on video duties next week while I'm off on my holidays, just as the weather turns, which is rather handy. But in the meantime, Gianni, thanks so much for joining me. Good luck with your game week 1. Good luck with your double Liverpool defence. And good luck with the season.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, enjoyed the chat, and I'll look forward to seeing how we get on early doors with hopefully the two